Hi guys, welcome to the first episode of Sound On. I am Melissa and with me today I have Chris. I am a second year biomedical science student from the University of Sheffield. And Chris, do you want to talk a bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Chris. I'm also a second year student in the University of Sheffield, but I do international relations and politics.
Okay, so today we're just going to be talking about, an introduction to this podcast channel, why we started it, what was our inspiration behind starting this podcast channel, and a little bit about how we are dealing with this COVID-19 situation as students. So maybe, Chris, do you want to talk about how we started it, maybe?
Yeah, okay, so actually this plan for a podcast was really put into motion sometime last week. So basically Mel just asked me yo, Chris, are you interested in podcasts? I was like, well, I wouldn't say that I'm particularly interested in it, but I do listen to podcasts. I've listened to a couple on from BFM. There's more of serious topics and all that, politics and all that. Then I was just she was just because I'm looking for a co-founder. So I was like, okay, I'll give it some thought. And then I thought about it. I was like, yeah, why not just take this opportunity? Because, we're all kind of stuck at home right now over MCO, because of MCO. So I was thinking that it'll be good to have something to do in my pastime alongside my many assignments that are currently, that I still have to attend to over this period. And then I also thought about the fact that, I used to debate when I was in high school, I do it every now and then. So that was a platform for me to put in my thoughts and my views, to have discussions about things. And I haven't really done that since I left high school, in 2016, I think. Yeah, it's been quite a long time. And so I realized that, this could be a good platform for me to actually have discussions, to talk about all sorts of topics in a more chill environment, a more laid back environment, rather than in debates where it's a serious 7-minute speech and all that. Whereas right now, rather than giving a speech, I'm just having a very laid back discussions with our guests and with Mel. So yeah.
Yeah, I just realized that whenever there's a thunder, your voice cuts off a bit from. Okay,
Does
but
it?
anyway, yeah. Okay,
so I actually thought it wasn't going to be that bad, but yeah. Oops.
Okay, never mind. Let's hope it doesn't get worse. Yeah. So for me, the reason why I thought of doing this is because so I do okay. I like to think that I listen regularly to podcasts. Maybe not as regular as I should, but last year, I think it was last year where I started discovering many podcasts that are very interesting actually, and I actually quite enjoy listening to them. Where it could be about any topic, whether it's about lifestyle, productivity, or science or anything. I think it's really interesting where we can just talk about, where I can listen to people talk about a certain topic, any topic, listening to what they think about this topic, because I feel like everyone has their own perspective. Everyone has a different perspective, and what I believe is that we can learn something. We can learn at least one thing from everyone. So yeah, that is what I had in mind when I wanted to start this. So I have been thinking about it for quite a while, maybe since last year. I thought oh, it'll be cool if I have my own podcast channel. But then I've never really started it because I didn't really have time, I guess, university and stuff. But then now, because of the COVID-19, everyone's stuck at home. So I thought this would actually be the best time to start it, since everyone is more free. Yeah, everyone has more time on their hands. And then, and I also thought of having someone to do it with me, because I think it would be very scary if I for me it was so scary. Yeah, so I thought of Chris, so I asked him, and then he said yes. So that is why we started this. So yeah, this.
I mean, it's a nice opportunity, I guess, because sometimes I feel that throughout university and all that, life always has its routine. So I think this podcast is something in addition to the usual routine that I have. which is actually like very like timely right now because, well, we are, because of social distancing and all that, we have to stay at home as often as we can. So I think that it's very good. So I'm actually very happy to do this. And like, in fact, like it'll actually give me opportunities to have like more, like, I should say more like, serious or like intellectual and also fun discussions with like our friends. So yeah, it's a good thing to like, start doing this.
Mm-hmm. I think what the question that I've been getting a lot is that what will you guys be talking about, and like what is the theme of this podcast? But like for me, like what I always say is that it's about, like when I told Chris about my idea also, I thought it would be more about like general life that general topics that everyone can relate to. Like we have a few episodes coming up that's about student life, about self-love. So yeah, and we also will be bringing guests every week. So either maybe one or two of our friends to record something with us so that we can get their opinions on it as well. So
yeah, I think it'll be good because like, I mean, we currently we've already prepared like a list of topics that we think that we can talk about, and in fact, like a number of those topics we've already got like guests. So I think it'll be it'll be really interesting to see like what are everyone's views on those topics and all that. And we've actually like kind of like carefully selected like who we want to bring in, like who's actually like really like interested in that area of discussion. So they'll really like be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I'm really excited for our upcoming episodes as well. And yeah, for me, like I'm generally a listener. So when I talk about something in like everyday conversations, I'm always the one listening to what other people have to say. I'm always listening to other people's opinions, basically. So I feel like this platform can also be a way for me to train myself to express my thoughts, which is something that I don't usually do, which is maybe, I don't know, this could be like another whole topic on its own, but maybe it's like some self-esteem thing.
I don't know. I think I have like a balance between being a listener and a talker. I don't know, because like very often I'm being told that like I have something to say about a lot of things. But sometimes I also feel that when people are telling me like like things about them and all that, like I tend to be able to like just like, give them an ear and listen to. So I think like this podcast would be good because it kind of like allows me to do both, I guess. Like it allows me, it'll allow me to like speak on things that I think that I have a view on, and also it will allow me to like listen. So it's kind of like, it'll be like a two-way street where like, people can get my thoughts and I get theirs. So I think that it's a very good platform as well. Yeah.
Also, like I think for now our target audience would be students, specifically maybe Malaysian students who are currently in university. But I think it would be nice also if we can get other people's opinions and stuff. So,
yeah, I think it'll be
So the guests that we bring onto the show are usually like our friends from uni, but maybe future episodes we can look into something else, which would be interesting, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, just like go with the flow, I guess, like see who we can get and all that, depending on the time and like.
Yeah.
But I think like it's generally quite easy to like pull people from uni because like, a lot of people from university, so like you kind of like can tell like that they could be interested in such a topic. So we just have to ask. So I think like finding guests is not really that difficult for now, I guess.
Okay, moving on to MCO, maybe how has this whole COVID-19 thing been treating you?
I think like it all started when I was in Sheffield, when we were still in Sheffield, I think. Like, I don't know if you recall, but then like we had like this, like right before we, like a week before we came back to Malaysia, we were having this like picnic on Sunday with our friends. We were just talking about like COVID-19 and all that, like how bad it is and all that. I was like super chill about it. I was just like, nah, it's like, there's no point going home. That's what I was saying. Like because I wasn't even preparing, because I was just like, there's no point, and like things will go back to normal eventually. And like the number of cases in like the UK and Europe is not, in the UK specifically, is not that bad yet. So I was actually really chill about it in the beginning. And then suddenly I got news that Sheffield, like the university, is going to like stop face-to-face classes, face-to-face teaching. Then I was just like, okay, like it's getting bad. It's fine. I'm still staying put here. It's probably temporary. And then they said that it was indefinite. So I was like, okay, it's getting really bad. Like that happened on Sunday itself as well. And then I learned that my flatmates were all going to go home. I was just like, okay, that's really bad. Like I might be alone in my flat in Sheffield if I don't go home. Then I started getting like calls from my parents saying that like I think it's time to come home. So like everything, like it was like a real roller coaster. Like things just started changing in like just 2 days in Sheffield. So it was quite traumatizing in a certain way whereby like Sheffield's like a second home to me. Like the UK is like our second home already. Like having to leave it all in just 4 or 5 days. In fact, I think 3, 4 days was actually really tough. And then you come back to Malaysia, and then when I landed in Malaysia, the MCO was already in place. Like it was really like difficult in the sense that you had to like self quarantine for 14 days, right? Like I'm pretty sure you did that as well. It was really bad. Like when I came back to Malaysia in year one, it's like, I'll just start going out, meet my friends that I've not seen in a while and all that. And then I couldn't do that at all. So like, yeah, so like MCO really changed a lot of things. Like we've been home for like almost 2 months now, I think. And I think we've only gone out like a handful of times. So yeah, and it's a lot harder to do university work at home. So yeah, that's how. But overall, like as you guys can see, like I think I look okay. I think I'm fine. I think we're all coping all right. So yeah, I think we've kind of like we just have to bear with it until things get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my story is also very similar to yours, where I was in Sheffield. Like I think when we first heard about it was during exam period, if I'm not mistaken. It was like
Yes, it was during
January.
exam period. Yeah.
Yeah, and then at that time it was like, okay, it's like another disease. Like not for me it was like, okay, not a big deal. Even though like it's killing a lot of people in China, which I know is really bad. But like I didn't expect it to be. I think no one expected it to be to this scale, And
Yeah,
when
because
yeah, you
like we
mean?
were still going out and all, like like even 2 weeks before coming back to Malaysia, we were still going out and all that with no like social distancing or anything.
Yeah, and we were also having like public gatherings, like society
Yeah,
society
yeah.
gatherings. Yeah, and also
Mhm.
like I think one thing that also contributed to it was that I think at that time Malaysia already had like the movement control order, but then UK didn't have it. And like when I was walking on
Yeah,
the streets, right, I could still see people like in pubs, in restaurants, like
yeah, the pubs were still
normal.
full. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I see that in my mind, I was like, okay, this is not that bad. Like I don't think
Yeah.
I should be worried. But then when we started getting news about like people in Sheffield getting infected, and even
Mhm.
people in our university, I think it was the Arts Tower or something, a staff
Yeah, the
quarters.
arts salon was like, yeah, that's when it's actually like everything started to become really serious, I think.
Yeah. And then like they decided to like you mentioned earlier, they decided to cancel face-to-face lectures and stuff. And then people started to go home, and I was like, okay, what is going on? Because I didn't expect to like fly home. I was like, why would I go through the trouble and risk myself getting infected in the airport, right? But then
Yeah,
when
yeah,
I
exactly.
saw
That's what I'm saying.
but when I saw everyone flying back, and then also what my friend told me was like he was going back, and he was trying to persuade me to
Mhm.
go back as well. And the points that he brought up is like quite valid lah. Like he said that if we do get infected in the UK, like as international students in the UK, do you think that we will be getting the same medical attention that we will be getting in
Mhm.
Malaysia? Yeah, which when he said that, I was like, okay, it's true, I have to go back. So
Yeah, because I was just like really laid back about it. I was just like, nah, it's fine and all that. Because when we first left the UK as well, the number of cases in the UK weren't really that high yet as well.
mm-hmm.
So I was just like, nah, like I don't want to get myself infected in the plane or in the airport and all that. But then like when my parents were like pushing, like, I think it's time to go home and all that. At first I was just really reluctant. Like I'm not leaving like my second home like just like in just 4 days, There's no way I'm gonna do that. There's no way I can do that. But then like I thought that a lot of people were overreacting initially. When I realized that so many people were actually like flying home, not just the Malaysians, but like, even people from China were also going home. I was just like, I think it's impossible that so many people are overreacting. So it could really be a serious problem. And then flights started to get cancelled and all that. That's when I realized that I could, like, in the worst case scenario, like, could I get stranded in the UK even beyond like June? So that's when I was just like, okay, better like take the opportunity to go home while we still can.
Mm-hmm.
And the union gave us the green light to go home. I mean, like they sent us an email saying that if you're an international student and if you want to go home, like you can do it. You will not be penalized. So I interpreted that as like the university telling us, like, perhaps you can go home. Perhaps you should go home if you want to.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's when
yeah.
how serious the situation actually is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like yeah, similar for my case, I think. And actually, fortunately, everything was quite smooth. Like we flew back, and then
Mhm.
everyone was home. And now looking back, I think I am definitely glad that I actually flew home and not stuck in UK. But
Yeah,
mhm.
I think it's the right, like, I mean, it's not an easy decision to make. Like, there are probably a lot of international students still in the UK right now. It's not an easy decision to make. And like, I mean, whatever decision we took, I guess, like we just have to make the best out of it, I guess. If you get what I
Mhm.
mean, like now we should keep up the social distancing, whereas, anybody else who is still in Britain should also follow social distancing and all that. And I think we can only just hope that everything returns to normal as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah. Also, like, have you seen like the recent number of cases in UK? Like, it's actually really really bad, and even in Sheffield, it's really
Yeah,
high.
I've seen like like I think if I'm not mistaken, like the number of cases in the UK is like the highest in Europe now.
Yeah, yeah,
But that
yeah.
yeah, so it's quite worrying as well. So I hope that anybody in the UK, everyone in the UK is doing all right. But
Yeah.
some people are saying it's kind of hard to compare right now and all that. So we'll just have to wait and see. But
Yeah.
like for me, I really want to return. I really want to be able to return, like in September. I really hope that we can, and that we can continue this podcast over there as well. But
Mm.
we just have to wait and see, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like okay, talking about the MCO and what we have
Yeah,
been doing since we came back to Malaysia. So for me, like so the university decided to push the Easter break earlier. So I think the first few weeks that we were back in Malaysia, um
it was
there
Easter break.
yeah, it was Easter break, so we didn't have any classes. But then now, like the classes have started and everything, and it's all online. So for me, like my course, they pre-recorded all the lectures and they posted it like at the beginning of Easter break. So we
Yeah.
can and we can like basically listen to lectures at our own time, which I think was really like really helpful because the thing
Mhm.
about time difference is it's really annoying. I think Chris, you experienced the time difference quite.
Yeah. So like, my lectures are also pre-recorded, but it's uploaded every week before our classes. So lectures are uploaded every week. And then for my seminars or tutorials, I have to actually attend class in person for seminars or tutorials. So like lectures, I don't have to attend it in person. I can play the pre-recorded lecture whenever I want to after it's uploaded. But because I need to be present for my seminars or tutorials, it's like I always, the time zone, even though it's just 7 hours, 7 or 8 hours, it's actually really like difficult to a certain extent. Like I have classes from like 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. in Malaysia. Like
Mm.
I'm always still awake at that time, but it's weird in the sense that I'm always just doing my own thing at that time. So for instance, like because my classes are so late, because of the time difference and all that, my classes are usually in the evening or at night. Like I wake up late in Malaysia. So because I wake up late, I have obviously lesser hours to do my assignments and all that. So whenever I have classes, the nighttime classes are usually when I do my assignments because that's when I'm most productive. So that's why it's very difficult. But I think it's a personal problem for me as well because it's probably because I'm not sleeping and waking up at the right time. But it's kind of hard to change these things because that's just how I live even in the UK. But the difference is that in the UK, like I actually have to make myself wake up earlier to attend class. And then yeah, so it's just like the MCO is actually like in terms of the time difference for classes, like I've still been able to attend classes because despite the MCO, because like, I'm just at home. But like changing the way I live has been quite challenging, I would say. And the
Mm-hmm.
time this is really like is really taxing, which is one of the reasons why I really want my final year to be online as well. So I'm really just hoping for the best.
Yeah, for me, like, okay, so I'm doing biomed, right? So we have like
Yeah.
lab sessions and basically hands-on sessions,
Mhm.
which fortunately weren't really that affected because we didn't have many labs this year, and
Yeah.
we completed almost all of it before this
Mhm.
COVID thing started. So I think we were only left with like one practical, which they somehow converted it to a virtual practical. So, in terms of my course, I think everything was going pretty smooth. Like, um, yeah. So everything, I think everything that's left now can be delivered and be done online, which is really good. And they also implemented like a safety net policy for the students as well,
Mhm.
which is really helpful for us.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but my course, like international relations and politics, doesn't have like labs. So I think that to a certain extent, we're not as affected as students who actually do like hands-on, like practical work in labs and all that. But like for me, the reason why I feel that I'm I really like this, despite things being relatively unaffected, despite online learning, I don't like it because I think it's just basically like it feels really different, like having classes online or having it in person. Because in person, it's like I can actually have a chat with my lecturers and all that during breaks and all that. I can attend their office hours in person because I think it's just a lot easier to talk to your lecturers or your tutors in person rather than online. I think there's a certain kind of like awkwardness online, I guess. Like that's also that's like really a fundamental problem in like online tutorials and seminars, in a sense that sometimes there's just a time when like nobody talks online. And
Yeah, yeah,
that because in classes, like in class, everyone is bound to say something. Like it just happens. Somebody would say something in a real life kind of like class rather than virtual. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so how I'm affected by it, like it's like the delivery is different.
Mm-hmm.
The
So like,
effectiveness of the delivery is not different.
mm-hmm. So like, okay, the our courses aside, right? How has the MCO been, especially like the 14-day quarantine where we couldn't leave our room? Like, how was it for you?
Yeah. It was actually quite difficult in a sense that like I'm home, like I couldn't really like interact much with my parents, but I kind of like got through it relatively well and easily because like I had everything that I needed. And then I still had my assignments, so I was kept busy by my assignments. And it was also a good time to actually like um, um, start talking to like and start chatting more with my friends who were also in lockdown in Malaysia, people that I've not spoken to as often as I would have wanted to. So because of that, like assignments, work, and friends, and those online games, Scribble and stuff like that, like it really helped me get through the 14 days relatively well. So yeah, so it was stressful, no doubt, but like I went through it quite well.
Okay, I think it was the same for me. So like my 14 days, right? So I was just in my room, and then
Mhm.
after my 14 days was over, I came out of my room, and then
Yeah.
I think a few hours later, I got news that someone
Oh,
sitting, yeah, someone sitting like not
yeah,
too
yeah,
far
yeah.
away from me in the plane, was
Mhm.
infected lah. So I was like, oh damn, like I already walked out of my house. What am I gonna do? So I mean, I was out of my room. So like, my whole family decided to get tested.
Yeah,
So yeah, so we went to like Sunway Velocity, and then it was super efficient, and we got the results like a few hours later. Actually, like we went on the same night, and then the next morning
yeah,
we already got results, which was all negative. And yeah, so I think that was quite an experience, and also like traveling.
yeah.
Yeah, traveling during that period was really weird. So like we were in Manchester airport, and everything was closed, everything was quiet, and there were there were seats, right, to wait for our flights. There were people there,
Uh,
but no one was talking, and it was just like, it felt so weird. I was like, what a time to be alive. Like, it was really like out of the ordinary, and there were people wearing like full body costumes with like
yeah, yeah.
plastics. Yeah.
I actually, I, I think that they were fair to be like that cautious about it, but I actually had a good laugh when I saw those people in like, they kind of look like, they looked a bit like frontliners, I think, with
Yeah.
their white suit and all that. I actually
Yeah.
laughed, but then I was just like, okay, I think perhaps they have their reasons for doing that. I was like, okay, yeah. But for me, like, it wasn't just that was kind of weird. Like seeing that number of people actually wearing those suits, it was like, even because I've taken many flights before, and not a lot of people actually wear masks on the plane. But like, boarded my aircraft, like I dare say like half the flight were like having face masks. So it felt kind of weird. And then I was also one of those people who wore masks throughout my flight. Like by the time I landed, like I didn't take out my mask at all from Manchester Airport all the way to Malaysia. In fact, like I arrived in Manchester Airport like the night before my flight, because my flight was at like 7 a.m. And because of a lack of trains and all that, I arrived in Manchester Airport at like 10 p.m. So I arrived at Manchester Airport at like 1 a.m. But I took my train at like 11 p.m. or something like that. So I was wearing masks like throughout the whole journey back. I only took out my mask when it was time to like change my mask or eat. So by the time I arrived in Malaysia, like my ears were like in pain because of the
Oh my
rubber.
god.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that was why that was what felt really different as well. It's a bit uncomfortable wearing the mask, but then like most people were doing it as well. So I think that, like, at that point in time, a lot of people were saying that the masks perhaps weren't much help, but people are still doing it as a sense of precaution. So that's why it felt different. And like, yeah, the mood was really not lively in the airport. It really wasn't. Like usually when you go to airports, like it feels kind of like, I don't know, it's a bit, you get like that festive kind of like feeling because
Yeah.
people are going on holiday. But isn't everybody is just like anxious, just worried and all that. And in fact, like I was anxious myself until the very moment I got back in Malaysia. Because like I don't
Mm.
know, all sorts of like thoughts like running through my head. Like what if I get a fever on the flight and then I get stopped in Doha and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a lot of things. So yeah, so it's a really good experience, I should say. Not something that I want to experience again, but yeah, it is an experience nonetheless.
Yeah, I think it's like a once in a lifetime thing. And about the mask, right, I have to admit that I didn't wear it throughout my whole flight, which I
Yeah, just
probably
ask her
should.
chops.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even breathe, so I took it off. But anyway, yeah, so for me, the 14 days quarantine, and even until now, which is, I think you said it has been like around 2 months. So, I think for me, it's been pretty good. Like, I've been able to do a lot of stuff that I previously never had the time to. For example, like
Yeah.
this podcast, and also I've been learning how to cook. I've been working out, and I've been catching up with old friends, which, like,
Mhm.
yeah, which is something. Those are the things that are always on my New Year's resolution, but I never get around to doing it.
Yeah, that's why
So
people say sometimes New Year's resolutions are like things that you say you will do, but you don't actually do it. But I think like this COVID-19 has given us like the opportunity to do things that we said we will do.
yeah, yeah, and like, yeah, I guess we're also like in a very fortunate place to be able to feel that way, because like I'm aware
Yeah.
that some people, like, they don't even have, like, for us, like, we're lucky to have like a roof above our heads and like food to eat. And
Mhm.
like during
Definitely.
quarantine, yeah, during my room quarantine, it was like my mom would like deliver food to my room. I was like, oh my god, I'm so blessed. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then, like, for some people, like, getting like, for people who are less fortunate, I feel like getting the virus is not even their main worry. Like, they're probably worried,
No, it's
like,
not.
yeah, they're probably worried, like, how am I gonna feed my children, because they probably can't work. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think we are like very blessed to feel this way, like, about MCO.
Yeah, I think that I guess that like, everybody has different worries because of this crisis, this pandemic. And like, I think we actually hope to touch on some of those concerns with our podcast, like
Mm-hmm.
touching on not just specifically on like coronavirus, but also the kind of things that that's always on our mind, but we usually don't talk about those things because we have other like pressing priorities. But coronavirus, like COVID-19, has given us the opportunity to actually like think about those things that we always have on our minds, but we actually don't like put in much thought into those things. So that's one of the reasons why I actually feel like really like thankful that we're going to have this podcast, because we are going to be able to actually discuss such things, like some of the topics that you've already mentioned, like about like self-esteem and all that. Like these are the kind of things a lot of people have on their minds, but because of other priorities, at times we just brush all those aside. So this is a good opportunity to talk about these things. Like, so that is one of the perhaps the highlights of having this MCO, despite it overall being not something that's very pleasant but necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think maybe like just to wrap it up, I think because a lot of people
Mhm.
have been talking online as well about like how
Yeah,
the MCO isn't a competition to be productive, because people will like, oh, like people will work out and then they post it online, and then
yeah,
we will feel bad that, oh, why are we not as productive as someone else? So I feel like we should just like basically like you do you, like you should just do
exactly.
whatever,
Yeah,
yeah, whatever makes you happy and whatever makes you feel good. And you should do the things like, for example, if you want to work out, right, you should do it because you want to do it, not because you are seeing everyone else do it and
yeah.
you feel bad. Yeah.
I think essentially it's that like the MCO is stressful because we can't do the things that we usually can do. So all of us have our own sort of like coping mechanism, how we cope with such pressure and all that. So we should do whatever we want to do to help ourselves go through this. So like if you like doing TikToks, just do it. If you like if your coping mechanism is like catching up with friends, watching dramas and all that, working out, just do what you think is best for you. Like you don't have to be like guided by what people post, right? I think that's essentially what you're trying to say, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, yeah, I guess just also like mental health can be like a completely different topic, but like, I think a lot of people
Hmm.
have also been having like mental health issues because you're just stuck at home feeling helpless, especially those who aren't receiving any income during this
Yeah.
MCO. So yeah, I think whatever it is, I think we should just remember that we have a support system behind us, and like
Hmm.
friends, family, like we can always talk to them whenever we feel down or we feel helpless. So yeah, do
Yeah.
you
In
have
fact,
anything?
this is like the best time to actually do that, because most people are around you more often than they actually are. So yeah. Well, I guess that we can actually wrap up this first session of ours now then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to wrap up, everybody. So yes, here you have Melissa and I, Chris, as your hosts for Sound On. We are very glad to welcome you to our first podcast session. This is our introductory session. So our next topic, which will be uploaded right after this one, will be a session where we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic in depth. So we actually touched on how we're dealing with COVID-19 right now. But in our next session, which will be uploaded right after this one is uploaded, would actually cover that issue in depth. So we plan to upload a podcast session every Friday. So stay tuned.
If I was a different man, if I had blood in my